Stop whatever you are doing. If you have a garden bed, a raised box, a few containers on a patio, or a single pot in a sunny spot, what I am about to tell you is worth more than anything you will spend at a garden center this entire season. It is July. And right now, at this exact moment, most gardeners across America are making one of the most expensive mistakes in home gardening without realizing it is a mistake at all. They think the planting season is over. The tomatoes are in. The zucchini is somewhere under its own leaves. The beans got harvested, and somewhere in the back of their minds, they have quietly decided that the next time they will plant anything is next April. So the beds sit empty, bare. Weeks of perfect growing conditions going completely unused every single day between now and November. Here is what those gardeners do not know, and what separates an average backyard garden from a genuinely productive one. July soil is the warmest it will be all year. A seed that took 14 slow, cold days to crack open and push through the surface in April will do the same thing in 4 or 5 days right now. The ground is primed, the days are still long, and 15 vegetables are sitting in nurseries and seed packets right now waiting for you to make this decision. Vegetables that will go from seed to your kitchen before the first frost takes everything. Some of them are ready to eat in 3 weeks. And one of them, number 15 on this list, has a hard deadline. Miss this planting window by even 2 weeks and it will not have enough time to mature. But plant it right now, this week, not next week, and it will be sitting on your Thanksgiving table in November, fresh from your own backyard, while everyone else reaches for a freezer bag. This channel exists to give you exactly this kind of information, the stuff most gardeners never find until it is too late. If you are not subscribed yet, do it now. Every week this channel publishes the real information that keeps your garden producing when everyone else's has stopped. Subscribe so it finds you directly. Before we get into plant 1, what is sitting empty in your garden right now? A bed that finished producing, a container you pulled something out of, a patch of bare ground you have been walking past for weeks. Drop it in the comments, because by the end of this video you are going to know exactly what goes in it before sunset tonight. 15 vegetables. 15 reasons your garden is not done yet. Let's go. Plant number 1. Cucumbers. Here is something most gardeners experience but never think to solve. By mid-July, the cucumber plants that went in the ground in May are finished. Powdery mildew has moved across the leaves. The vines look rough. Production has slowed to almost nothing. Most people accept that as the end of cucumbers for the season and move on. That acceptance is the mistake. Plant a fresh round of cucumbers right now. July soil germinates cucumber seeds in 4 to 6 days, faster than any spring planting you have ever done. A fresh plant that goes in this week hits its production peak in September, when the heat of August has broken, disease pressure is lower, and cucumbers taste crisper and more genuinely flavorful than anything they produced during the heat of summer. Most varieties go from seed to harvest in 60 to 70 days. Plant today. Cucumbers on your counter by mid-September. The one practice that separates productive cucumber plants from struggling ones is vertical growing. A trellis, a fence panel, bamboo poles lashed together. Anything that takes the vines off the ground. Vines sitting on soil are in stagnant air. Powdery mildew finds those conditions and spreads fast. Vertical vines get airflow around every leaf. The disease cannot establish. The fruit hangs in open space, visible, easy to find, harvested before it ever turns bitter. 1 July planting grown vertically. Fresh cucumbers straight through September. Plant number 2. Zucchini. The squash vine borer is the reason so many American gardeners have quietly given up on zucchini, often without ever understanding why they lost the plant. The moth lays eggs at the base of the stem in late spring and early June. The larvae hatch and tunnel into the vine from the inside. The plant wilts. It collapses. It looks like a disease, which is exactly why most people never identify what happened. They blame their soil, their watering, their luck. It was a moth. Here is the timing that changes everything. In most northern and midwestern U.S. regions, zones 5, 6, and 7, the vine borer moth completes its primary egg-laying cycle by late June and early July. A zucchini plant that goes into the ground now, in July, misses that window entirely. By the time the plant is large enough to be a target, the moth has moved on. Seeds germinate in 4 to 7 days in warm July soil. First fruit appears in 40 to 50 days. Southern gardeners in zones 8 and warmer, vine borers in your region can run 2 generations per season. Row covers over young plants for the first 3 weeks give you the same biological protection that timing provides in the north. And here is the part worth staying for. A zucchini picked at 6 inches in September, when the heat has finally broken, has a sweetness and a clean flavor that the identical fruit in July simply does not produce. Same plant, completely different vegetable, harvest at 6 to 8 inches every time. Every time you pick, the plant pushes 2 more. Every time you leave one to grow past that size, production slows. One July plant, managed correctly, produces through late September. Plant number 3. Bush beans. Most gardeners plant bush beans once in spring, harvest through June, watch production slow, and assume that is simply how beans work. It is not how beans work. It is how one planting of beans works. Bush beans planted in July germinate in 8 to 10 days in warm summer soil, faster than any spring sowing. They reach harvest in 50 to 55 days. That puts fresh beans on your table in September, when cooler temperatures bring out a sweetness and tenderness in the pods that summer beans never quite achieve. For July germination, one thing matters more than anything else: keeping the seed moist until it sprouts. July heat dries the top inch of soil fast, sometimes within hours of watering on a hot afternoon. A thin layer of straw mulch laid over the seeded row holds that surface moisture without blocking the seeds from pushing through. Check the bed once a day. The moment seedlings break the surface, pull the mulch back slightly to let them reach full light. That single habit is the difference between reliable July germination and a bed that never comes up. Plant number 4. Radishes. Radishes have a reputation for being sharp and bitter, and that reputation comes almost entirely from 2 problems that are completely avoidable. The first is timing. Radishes bolt, meaning they send up a flower stalk, when a combination of heat and long days triggers that response. A radish planted in early July is maturing during the hottest, longest days of summer. The result is a pithy, hollow, aggressively bitter root. The fix is specific. Plant radishes in the second half of July. Seeds sown around the 20th or later are maturing in August and September when both temperatures and day lengths are shortening. Cooler maturation produces sweeter, milder, crispier roots. The second problem is leaving them in the ground past their window. Most varieties are ready in 22 to 28 days. Past that window they go hollow and intensely hot within a matter of days. Check the seed packet for days to maturity. Mark the date. Pull them on time. A radish pulled at exactly the right moment, crisp, bright, with just a gentle heat, tastes nothing like anything that comes in a plastic bag. It is a completely different vegetable. Plant number 5. Lettuce. Lettuce has a built-in physiological limit. When air temperatures consistently exceed 80 degrees, most varieties shift from leaf production to reproductive mode. The plant sends up a flower stalk. The leaves flood with bitter compounds. The plant is done. This is bolting, and it is the reason most American gardeners give up on summer lettuce entirely. The solution does not require special seeds or expensive equipment. It requires shade. Lettuce planted where it receives afternoon shade, under a tomato cage, alongside a taller crop, beside a fence or structure that blocks western sun, experiences soil temperatures 10 to 15 degrees lower than lettuce in full summer exposure. That temperature differential is often sufficient to keep the plant in leaf production mode rather than bolt mode through the hottest weeks of summer. At the garden center, look for packets labeled slow bolt or heat tolerant. These varieties are specifically bred to hold longer under summer conditions. Plant in a shaded location. Choose a slow bolt variety. Harvest outer leaves while leaving the growing center intact. The plant continues producing new leaves from the inside outward for weeks from a single planting. Plant number 6. Carrots. Carrots are the most complained about July planting in American home gardening, and almost every complaint traces back to the same single cause. Carrot seeds are tiny. They sit in the top quarter inch of soil. In July heat, that surface layer dries completely within hours of watering on a hot afternoon. The seeds desiccate before germination can complete. Gardeners water, nothing appears. They assume the failure is theirs and replant. Same result. The fix is mechanical, and it works. After sowing carrot seeds, lay a single piece of burlap or a wooden board directly over the seeded row. That covering holds moisture in the surface layer through the heat of the day without blocking germination. Check underneath every morning. The moment tiny green sprouts appear, remove the covering immediately so they reach full light. This one step converts carrot germination in July from inconsistent and frustrating to reliable. Choose Danvers or Nantes types. They are shorter and stockier than longer varieties and push through average summer soil without requiring the deep, perfectly loose bed that larger types demand. Plant now. Harvest sweet, cold weather-kissed carrots in October and November. Plant number 7. Kale. Most people think kale is a spring vegetable. The gardeners who plant it in July and leave it in the ground through the first hard frost are eating a genuinely different food by October. When temperatures drop below freezing, kale converts stored starches into sugars. This is a documented physiological survival response. The plant is protecting itself from ice crystal formation in its cells by increasing the solute concentration in its tissues. The result, from a culinary standpoint, is leaves that are noticeably sweeter, more tender, and milder than anything the plant produced during summer. This is why autumn kale commands a premium at farmers' markets. It is not marketing, it is biology. The summer heat does not damage kale. It handles temperatures that wilt most other vegetables. It grows steadily through August and September. Then October arrives. The nights turn cold, and the plant you put in the ground in July becomes the most interesting thing in your garden. Lacinato, also called dinosaur kale, and red Russian are the two varieties most consistently recommended for that fall harvest quality. Harvest outer leaves and leave the growing center intact. One plant produces through November and in mild zones well into December. Plant number 8. Swiss chard. While spinach bolts in summer heat and most lettuce varieties wave the white flag by August, Swiss chard simply keeps going. It handles summer heat better than almost any green available to American home gardeners. It handles the first light frosts of fall. It bridges the entire gap between summer and autumn without slowing its production pace. One thing most people do not discover until they grow their own. Chard leaves and chard stems are two separate ingredients in the kitchen. The leaves wilt quickly in a hot pan, exactly like spinach, ready in under 2 minutes. The stems require 4 to 5 additional minutes of cooking on their own. Separate them at harvest. Cook the stems first. Add the leaves at the end. One plant gives you 2 distinct textures and 2 distinct flavors from a single cutting. The rainbow or celebration variety, with stems in deep red, bright yellow, orange, and white, is one of the most visually striking vegetables you can grow in a summer garden. It produces reliably from the day of first harvest through November. Plant now. Harvest through frost. Of the first 8 plants on this list, which one are you most surprised to learn you can still plant in July? Drop your answer and your zone in the comments. A gardener in your exact climate is reading those responses and making decisions based on exactly what you share. And if you found this video halfway through someone sharing it and you are not subscribed yet, now is the time. This is what this channel does every single week. Real planting windows, real variety recommendations, real information that keeps your garden producing when everyone else's has stopped. Subscribe so the next one finds you directly. Plant number 9. New Zealand spinach. Traditional spinach cannot survive July. The combination of heat and long summer days causes it to bolt within days of germination. Most gardeners accept that spinach is a spring and fall crop and go without leafy greens for 4 months in between. New Zealand spinach, botanical name Tetragonia tetragonioides, is a different plant entirely, different genus, different species. It is not a warm weather variety of traditional spinach. It is a separate vegetable that happens to taste and cook identically in any application where you would use spinach. Sautéed, in soups, added to eggs. The flavor is mild, slightly earthier, and holds up under heat in a way that traditional spinach does not. What it does that traditional spinach cannot: grow through July, August, and September in full summer heat without triggering reproductive mode. It spreads low and wide across the soil surface. It tolerates drought significantly better than any conventional leafy green. It produces continuously as long as you keep harvesting. Soak seeds overnight before planting. Germination takes 10 to 14 days in July soil. Harvest the tender growing tips regularly. The more you cut, the more the plant branches and the more it produces. This is the summer leafy green most American gardeners have never tried, and the one most wish they had found sooner. Plant number 10. Beets. Most Americans have formed their opinion of beets based on the canned version. That experience, sweet but slightly metallic, uniformly soft, has almost nothing in common with a beet pulled fresh from the ground. A beet harvested at exactly the right size and eaten the same day is earthy, deeply rich, and sweet in a way that makes people understand for the first time why anyone bothers growing them. The flavor difference is not subtle. It is categorical. July planted beets take 55 to 70 days to mature, reaching harvest in late September and October when cool temperatures have naturally concentrated the sugars in the root. Pull beets when the shoulder of the root, the top portion visible above the soil surface, measures 2 to 3 inches across. Past that point, the texture becomes fibrous, and the sweetness diminishes rapidly. The window is real. Respect it. Chioggia beets, the Italian heirloom variety with concentric pink and white rings inside, are among the most visually striking root vegetables available to American gardeners. Cut one open and it genuinely stops people. Plant now and you will have something beautiful to pull from your garden this fall. Plant number 11. Arugula. Pre-packaged arugula at the grocery store is almost always older than it appears. Arugula begins losing its volatile aromatic compounds, the ones responsible for its signature peppery character, within 24 to 48 hours of harvest. By the time it reaches a store shelf, most of that flavor has already dissipated. What remains is a flat, slightly bitter green that gives most people a fundamentally inaccurate picture of what arugula actually tastes like. Fresh arugula, cut and eaten the same day, has a bright, clean, peppery bite with a slight nuttiness underneath that exists nowhere on a refrigerated grocery shelf. For July growing, one harvest habit determines almost everything. Harvest small. Baby arugula leaves at 2 to 3 inches are mild, bright, and genuinely delicious. Full-size mature leaves in summer heat are intensely peppery and bitter enough to overwhelm most dishes. Harvest at 21 to 25 days. Cut with scissors, leave the root system in place. New leaves regenerate from the base within 10 to 12 days. Plant a small patch every 2 weeks, and you have continuous fresh arugula from late summer straight through fall. Plant number 12. Turnips. Turnips have an image problem in America, and it originates from one specific experience. Most people have only ever eaten large, old turnips. A turnip left in the ground past its prime becomes starchy, fibrous, and aggressively sharp. That is the version most Americans know. Pull a turnip at golf ball size, roughly 2 inches across, and it is a completely different vegetable. Mild, slightly sweet, crisp enough to eat raw. More similar to a radish than to anything most people picture when they hear the word turnip. And that is only the first harvest from a single planting. Turnip greens, the leafy tops, are edible from day 30 onward, a full 2 to 3 weeks before the roots are ready. They cook exactly like mustard greens, slightly peppery, tender, nutritionally dense. One packet of turnip seeds gives you 2 separate vegetables on 2 different timelines. Hakare, the Japanese salad turnip, is the variety that has introduced more skeptics to this vegetable than anything else currently available in America. Smooth, white, genuinely mild when eaten raw. Plant now for roots and greens through September and October. Plant number 13. Collard greens. Collard greens are the toughest leafy vegetable available to American home gardeners. Tougher than kale, hardier than chard, more cold tolerant than almost anything else you can put in the ground in summer. In Zone 7 and warmer, which covers the entire American South, much of the Mid-Atlantic, the Pacific Coast, and significant portions of the Midwest, collards planted in July produce fresh leaves straight through fall and into early winter. The first frost does not end them. It improves them. The same starch-to-sugar conversion that sweetens frost-kissed kale works in collards, but goes deeper and produces a more dramatic flavor transformation. In Zones 5 and 6, a hard freeze in November will eventually close the season. But not before 2 to 3 months of the best collard greens you have grown all year. Space plants 18 inches apart, they become large plants. Harvest the lower outer leaves first. The plant continues producing upward from the growing center for months after your first cutting. One collard plant started in July produces more greens than most households can keep pace with from September through the first hard freeze. Before we get to the final two plants, and especially before we get to number 15, I want to hear from you. Of everything on this list so far, which one genuinely surprised you the most? Not which one you plan to plant. Which one surprised you that it existed, that it worked like this, that you had never thought to try it in July? Drop that in the comments with your zone, because somewhere in this comment section, a gardener dealing with your exact soil and your exact climate is reading what you write. Plant number 14, scallions. Most gardening content focuses on plants that require months of commitment before the first harvest. Scallions operate in a different category entirely. Push seeds into warm July soil today. Sprouts appear in 7 to 10 days. Scallions ready to harvest in 60 days, with baby scallions harvestable even sooner. They require minimal space. A 6-inch strip along the edge of an existing bed holds enough scallions to supply a kitchen continuously. And the harvest method that most people skip is the one that multiplies the value of a single planting. Do not pull the whole plant. Snip the green tops with scissors about an inch above the soil surface. The base remains in the ground. New tops regenerate in 10 to 14 days. One July planting yields 2 full cuttings, sometimes 3, before the season closes. Fresh scallions available steps from your kitchen door on demand through late summer and fall. It is one of those small harvests that makes home gardening feel genuinely worth the effort every single time. Plant number 15, Brussels sprouts. This is the one I have been building toward, and the deadline is real. Brussels sprouts require 80 to 100 days to reach harvest. Plant in July, harvest in October and November. Wait until August, and they will not finish before frost closes the season in most of the country. Wait until September, and the window is gone in nearly every U.S. region. July is not a suggestion for Brussels sprouts. It is a hard agronomic deadline. In zones 3 through 6, the upper Midwest, New England, and the mountain states, start seeds indoors right now and transplant seedlings out in 2 to 3 weeks. The July heat will not damage the transplants as long as you water consistently through establishment. In Zone 7 and warmer, the Mid-Atlantic, the South, and the Pacific Coast, direct sowing in the garden works. Now here is the part that changes how most Americans think about this vegetable. The Brussels sprouts most people have eaten were harvested weeks before they were purchased and held cold through a supply chain. Fresh Brussels sprouts cut from the stalk in your own garden after the first hard frost of November have a natural sweetness and a nutty depth that the commercial version does not have. Cold triggers the same starch-to-sugar conversion that improves kale and collards. In Brussels sprouts, that conversion is dramatic enough to be immediately obvious to anyone who tastes them side by side. This Thanksgiving, while everyone else opens a bag from the freezer aisle, you will walk into your backyard and cut a full stalk of fresh Brussels sprouts that you planted in July. That moment is worth planting this week. 15 vegetables. 15 reasons your garden does not have to stop producing until November takes it from you. The soil is warmer right now than it will be at any other point this year. Every seed you put in the ground this week is a harvest you would have missed entirely if you had stopped in June like most gardeners do. There is something specific about walking out to your garden in October, when the neighbors' beds are bare and the season feels finished everywhere else, and coming back inside with a colander full of things you grew, carrots that went in the ground in July, kale that the frost made sweeter, Brussels sprouts you planted when everyone around you thought the gardening year was over. That feeling does not get old, and it is available to you right now, this week, from the seeds on this list. Here is what I want from you before you close this video. 2 things. First, tell me which one of these 15 you are planting this week. Not planning to plant, planting. And second, tell me which one surprised you most, the one you had no idea you could still get in the ground in July. Drop both answers in the comments with your zone or your state, because a gardener dealing with your exact climate and your exact conditions is reading what you write, and that real-world information from your actual yard is worth more to them than anything they will read on a seed packet. If this is the kind of content that actually changes what happens in your garden, real windows, real varieties, real information with a deadline attached, this channel publishes exactly this every single week. Subscribe now so the next video finds you directly. The gardeners whose harvests keep going through November are the ones who stopped searching and started subscribing. One more thing, Next week on this channel, the 7 biggest mistakes gardeners make when planting in summer heat, and number 4 is one that kills more July plantings than drought, pests, and bad soil combined. Most gardeners do not even know they are doing it. That video goes live this week. If you are not subscribed, it will not find you. Hit that button now so it lands directly in your feed the moment it publishes. Now go. The window on number 15 closes this week. Everything else on this list gives you a few more days, but not many. I will see you next week.